Welcome to Herbally Yours, an adventure into the world of natural medicine. Here is your host, Dr. Ellen Kamhi, the natural nurse who will help you take the leap to ultimate wellness.
And greetings. Thank you so much for joining me today. This is Ellen Kamhi, the natural nurse. And as always, I am wishing you the best. And we love to bring you the cutting-edge information right here on Herbally Yours on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. And today we have as our guest author and Dr. Christopher Vasey. And Dr. Christopher is a naturopathic physician and author, and he lives in Switzerland. He's joining us today all the way from there. He studied naturopathic medicine in Paris and started a private practice way back in 1979. I was doing natural medicine then for many years as well. Alongside his therapeutic work, he continued his formation by studying the works of other famous naturopathic doctors, such as Dr. Paul Carton, Herbert Shelton, Robert Masson, Dr. Kneipp, and others. Christopher lectures regularly all over the world, in Europe, the USA, and Canada. And on today's show, we're going to focus on one of his books, a new book called Natural Antibiotics and Antivirals, 18 infection-fighting herbs and essential oils. Thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Christopher.
Hello, Ellen. Well, it's a pleasure.
And we have had you on before because you are a prolific writer. What made you decide to go into sharing your protocols in, these wonderful books?
Well, I think that just like anybody else, when you discover something really good, which is very helpful for yourself, which is interesting, you want to share the pleasure. And then you talk to other people. Well, most people talk to their friends about the subject, but I do also, but I like to write, so I started to write books on the subject, and as people seem to enjoy them, so I went on.
Yeah, you have a whole range of topics, which is wonderful. Now, I know that antibiotics is a big topic, and that's our real focus for today. But I'd like to go back in time a little bit first and tell us how you got drawn to natural medicine versus, let's say, conventional medicine, because both are popular in Europe.
Yeah. Well, the difference between the two is that natural medicine has existed for several thousands of years, and the basic idea of natural medicine is that one should act on the cellular environment, that is what is also called the terrain, that basically all the illnesses start in the terrain. And this terrain is made of all the liquids which are in the body, that is all the cellular fluids, which are inside, outside of the cell, the blood, the lymph. All those liquids have to have a certain composition in order for us to be healthy. And when this composition changes, then we become ill. And they can change, this composition can change because either we accumulate waste products, toxins in the body, or because we are lacking in vitamin and minerals. So the whole idea in natural medicine is to bring back, to correct this terrain by detoxifying the body and supplementing with what is missing. And also to use plants, herbal plants, medicinal plants, which can act very specifically on one organ or another. But the idea is more change the terrain in order for the symptoms of the illness to disappear. Well, in conventional medicine, allopathy, the idea is the reverse. The doctor will try and find exactly what is the name of the illness by focusing on the symptoms. And once he knows the name of the illness, he then prescribes a very specific medicine, remedy, which is capable usually to make the symptoms disappear, and then he thinks that the illness has also disappeared. But this treatment is a surface treatment, which can be very helpful sometimes, but it doesn't change the internal environment. The terrain can still be full of toxins and lacking in vitamin, and that's why many people, when they are cured of something, they will become ill again soon after, and again, and so forth.
Well, certainly in the case of antibiotics, that is one kind of medication that is very widely used, but also even within the confines of conventional medicine, there are more and more recommendations to physicians to hold off on using antibiotics because they have been vastly overused and causing something called resistant strains. What is that about?
Well, the antibiotics are directed against the germs, the microbes, and microbes are living beings which are not happy being attacked, and they defend themselves. And they defend themselves if they manage to find a system to avoid the attack of the antibiotic, like, for example, making the external membrane, that is the outside of the germ, much more resistant so that the antibiotic cannot come into the germ, or to produce enzymes which destroy the antibiotic. If they manage to build these systems of defense, when next time the antibiotic comes, it will do no harm to the germ. Normally, the antibiotic should kill the germ, but it doesn't, because the germ has built the system, and this system is what is called a resistance. The germ resists the attack of the antibiotic. And that's more and more the case because antibiotics have been used too much and not in a reasonable way by doctors, but also by patients. I mean, like when a patient thinks, I've received some antibiotics, but it's not good for me, I've read somewhere, and I will not take the full dose, I will take a lower dose. And, well, by doing that, they will not kill the germs the antibiotic are meant to kill, and therefore the germ will build a resistance, and then the antibiotic will not be effective anymore.
Yes, that's a very good explanation. And we know several mechanisms of action of how microorganisms become resistant. You talked about two of them, Dr. Vasey, and we're talking here today with our guest, and that is Dr. Christopher Vasey, Vasey, naturopathic physician, and we're talking about one of his many books. Today we're talking about natural antibiotics and antivirals, and you can find more at his website, christophervasey.ch. And of course, he's calling in today from Switzerland. So you discussed two of the known mechanisms of action. I'd like to share one more because, like you said, these microorganisms really are very smart. They've been on the planet a lot longer than humans and may, in fact, be here a lot longer than humans as well. And they thought of another really great trick. They noticed that the cell itself has a little pump that tends to pump toxins out. And of course, an antibiotic and all other pharmaceuticals are considered toxins to the cell itself. So the cell has a little pump. It's called the MDR pump, the multi-drug resistant pump. So the bacteria have actually watched that action and go, you know what? That's a good idea. Let's work together to upregulate that pump. That means allow the antibiotics to be pumped out of the cell more efficiently. So that's yet another way. When they get good at that, good at the membrane changes, good at the enzyme implications, as you discussed, Dr. Vasey, it really becomes very difficult, if not impossible, to kill them. And it is interesting that there are certain natural therapies that actually offset some of these mechanisms, while conventional therapeutics actually make them even more problematic.
Yes, well, natural antibiotics have the advantage of being widespread, easy to find. They are very effective, and also germs cannot develop resistance against them. That's very important because, as we just said, many conventional antibiotics are not useful anymore, or not to everybody, because they've lost their efficiency. Well, why is that natural antibiotic cannot trigger resistance in germs? It's because conventional antibiotics are made of just 1 or 2, 3 molecules, just a few of them. And of course, the germ can find a mechanism against 1 or 2 molecules. But in the natural antibiotics, the antibiotic properties are in maybe 10 or 20 or 30 different substance and molecules, and that the germ cannot build a resistance against so many molecules at the same time. And that's why natural antibiotics can be used in replacement or in addition to other medicine to fight against infection.
Well, that is very interesting what you said, Dr. Vasey. So you are saying that some of these natural remedies, which we will talk about, can be used along with, let's say, pharmaceutical antibiotics?
Well, they could, if necessary. But what we do as a natural practitioner is to use them alone and try and heal the person with those natural antibiotics. Because, but we don't only use natural antibiotics. It's not only prescribing remedy. Natural medicine is something broader. It is also working on the internal environment, that is the terrain. Because the inside of our body, the terrain, when it is healthy, is resistant against the germs. The germs have really a great job to survive in a healthy body. But as soon as the terrain is full of waste products, of toxins, and is lacking in vitamin, in amino acids, and so forth, then it feels at home, it can multiply and start an infection and be a nuisance. So we work on both sides. We try to improve as much as possible the terrain so that the microbe feels really bad in that place. And we use natural antibiotics to attack him directly and to kill him.
Now, when you're talking about the terrain, do you mean the terrain? Is that how we would understand
terrain.
that?
Sorry.
The terrain. No, I think that's what you mean, because I know you have a fantastic chapter in your book, Natural Antibiotics and Antivirals, 18 infection-fighting herbs and essential oils. And you do have an entire chapter, chapter 8, maintaining balance in the body's cellular terrain in terms of an English pronunciation. I just want our listeners to know that is what you're talking about.
Yeah, I was pronouncing it in the French way.
Oh, well, that's fine. And perhaps we have listeners who understand French as well. But I thought that's just to say it that way.
Yeah,
so
that's safer.
And that is what you're talking about, building up that background, building up the internal strength of the individual on an ongoing level, first of all, to help resist bacterial and viral and fungal infections in the first place. And then if we do succumb, using perhaps stronger or more of the naturals or different ones. Your book is very specific about which antibacterials and antivirals and natural antibiotics might be useful in different situations. So that is a very, very good thing to try. Now we're going to take a little break right here on Herbally Yours. So I'd like to remind you that you are listening to Herbally Yours on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. Listen live online at nccradio.org, or we're so happy to also be broadcast on iHeartRadio. For more information on today's guest or topic, email whpc@ncc.edu. Stay tuned. Herbally Yours will be right back.
Okay, so maybe you didn't finish or broke your New Year's resolution to get to the gym or start that project you had kept on the back burner since, the dawn of time. I get it. That's okay. But there's one thing you can do to get back that inspiration, that can-do spirit. Perhaps you or someone